Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our fifth session with Erica's SAT Easy Prep course. Today, we're going to be doing math. And what's the other subject? Is it just math that we're going to be covering today?
Starting off with reading.
Starting off with reading. So, Erica, welcome back. And it's good to see you as always.
Hey, so nice. All right. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. I was going to kind of skip over the reading section that we ended with last week, but there are a few new people. And some people who weren't here last week. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you guys a chance to read the passage by yourself, like 5 minutes or something like that. Then we're going to go over the answers, the questions and the answers, obviously. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it because we did do like up until about half, up until like number 5 last week. And I want to give you guys a lot of like fresh practice. So we'll do that, and then we will do a brand new reading passage that we did not do, which is contained within here. So we'll do that as if we had never done it before. Go over a few problems with that, and then we'll go into math. The math today, I've taken it from actually an older. Actually, please make sure you haven't already that you are able to open this. It's in Dropbox. I haven't used Dropbox much, but you should be able to open it without an account. And I feel like the visual is so much better than me having to copy and paste from Khan Academy. This is from the SAT books from like before 2015. 2015 is when it changed. These are good practice just for math and different stuff like that. And apparently, I've heard some people say that this one is, the older one was harder. That's always a relative term though, so. Give me 1 second, just making a note. Okay, so the link to the current doc, Google Doc, is in the chat. So once you go to the current Google Doc, this is the current Google Doc, you're gonna click here. This is from last week's. So, oops, sorry. This is from last week's. Scroll down to page 10. Page 10, read the passage. And then if you have some time left over, go ahead and answer the questions. We're just gonna spend like 5 minutes doing this. And then we'll come back and answer them. We're gonna go through this faster because we already started it from last week. Okay, so if anyone cannot open the Google Doc, please let me know. I'm gonna go ahead and start the clock. We're gonna come back at like, we're gonna come back at around 2:58. Alrighty. So go ahead and read that and we will reconvene. Okay, cool. So let me just delete this. All right. All right. Can you mute yourself, Maya? Thank you. Some interference and stuff going on there. All right, cool. So, all right, so I have these just side by side. Okay, so sorry, my computer's a little glitchy. Gonna have the answers on one end and the passage on another side. I'll ask you guys what the answers are. Thank you for asking that. Let me just get set up. We did go over this last week, so I'll just go over it again up until number 6 is where we stopped, I believe. Okay, so why does this look like this? One second. There we go. Sorry, I think I had accidentally deleted something, sorry. All right, so. Okay, so. Number 1, the main purpose of the passage is to, for the newcomers, I didn't give you like an intro to the reading section, because sometimes I feel like it's a little redundant, but it's not redundant since you were not here. Haven't been here before. But basically, when you're reading the passage, each passage, you want to keep in mind the main idea. You want to keep in mind the overarching idea, meaning what is the main point of what the author is trying to communicate. So for this one, the main idea of the entire passage, not just one paragraph or one section or one sentence, is answer choice A, which is to present research approaches used to determine that crows may be able to think analogically. Now, analogically, that might seem like kind of an unfamiliar word, but if you're ever confronted with an unfamiliar word, you can kind of figure out what it is by looking at words that are contained within that word, words that seem familiar. So I'm just gonna call, I'll call on people based on the order that Zoom gave me. But MJ, what do you think that analogically means? Can you go ahead and unmute yourself and just tell me what you think that word means?
Something to do with animals' intelligence.
Analogically?
Yes.
Not quite, but we can, the main purpose of the passage is animals' intelligence. And it said the word in choice A that comes before the word analogically is think, which makes you start to think of things around, like involving thinking, which intelligence, stuff like that. So that makes sense. But what is a word that you could say is kind of contained within the word analogically? Or like what looks familiar in there?
Analyze.
Sorry, who said that?
Analyze.
Analog?
Analyze, like ANALIZE.
Not quite. I would say that, well, ANAL, I would say that's the only similarity it has with analyze. Let me get my little annotation thingy out.
Analogy.
Analogy, yeah, who said that?
Miriam.
Miriam, thank you. Analogy. So, I think ML had said analyze. And we see that, I'm just going to rewrite this. This is the word we're looking at. So let's say we're not sure what that word means. We gave a good guess, sorry. ML gave a good guess by saying analyze because they have these A and AL prefixes or whatever. It probably has some Latin base. I never took Latin. I just noticed, patterns and stuff. So I don't know the Latin meaning for that, but I'm sure you could figure it out and see. You could kind of probably break down words you're not familiar with based on their Latin roots or whatever. But analogically has more in common with, well, you could say analog, but it's like, that has to do with a watch, like, analog versus digital. And that's not relevant to what we're looking at. So analogy. So that is the closest thing we can think of that even kind of makes sense within the context. Because when you read it, actually it's also in the title, analogies. So I was just doing that as a point to kind of make sure that we know what we're even being asked. So I have a chat comment. Yes, Isaac, I thought you were linking people. 1 second, I'll send you the chat link. Not chat link, I'll send the link through the chat.
Referring to Essie, right?
Yes.
I emailed her the chat, or I sent it to her already.
Okay. They just asked again.
Essay, you didn't receive that chat privately that I sent to you at 3 o'clock?
I see it might be an issue of you just did. Okay. One thing real quick is that we're doing stuff from last week. So you're gonna have to click a link to get here. Let me show you. So when you open the Google Doc, I just sent you in the chat, click this link. It says SAT Prep 4 because we're in session 5. So click this link, go here, go to page like 10, and that's where we are at the moment. We're gonna come back to this doc a little later. Okay. Thank you for sending that, Isaac. I just needed to clarify that. Okay. The answer is A. Also, the experiments are talking about analogies. So I just wanted to make that point because you don't really usually come across the word analogically. And also, if you come across words that you're not familiar with, I would strongly recommend you keep a notebook. I also have another recommendation for this flashcard app called Anki or whatever, which is to help you with vocabulary. Because you can use context clues, which I always teach when you're kind of like not familiar with, when you're not familiar with words and you're taking the test, it's always good to work with what you have. You can usually break down words like we figured out more or less what analogically meant. Okay, number 2. Sorry. So number 2, we found out last week that number 2 meant, number 2, the answer was B, compelling. So line 2, I'll just read it for you. With these kind of questions, which seem to always pop up with the reading passages, it's easy for these kind of questions to look at the word. They're asking about what the word means in this context, not what the word means overall or how we usually use the word in the English language, but what the word means in this context. So it says, as used in line 2, strong most nearly means, and that most nearly, it means that the word strong, as it is used in this passage in line 2, is closest to meaning A, B, C, or D. So try not to get caught up in answering what you think they want you to answer. So like if you read this question and you said line 2, strong means, oh, intense or powerful, it's gonna probably be wrong. Again, the test is trying to trick you. So it's going to take advantage of people trying to save time and stuff. It actually doesn't take very long to just look at the line and see exactly how it's used there. So again, with these type of questions, it doesn't take too long to just, again, and things work differently for different people, but it doesn't take too long to just insert the answer choices into where the word is. So I'll do that very quickly and let you see how it sounds. We kind of did this last week, but again, for the new people. Okay, so it says line 2, strong. So I'll read the beginning of the sentence to, give the word strong context. A recent research collaboration has discovered that crows exhibit strong behavioral signs of analogical reasoning. Okay, let's put A in. Recent research collaboration has discovered that crows exhibit powerful behavioral signs of an analogical reasoning. A recent research collaboration has discovered that crows exhibit strong, let me start over. A recent research collaboration has discovered that crows exhibit compelling behavioral signs of analogical reasoning. A recent research collaboration has discovered that crows exhibit intense behavioral signs. a recent research collaboration has discovered that crows exhibit extreme behavioral signs of analogical reasoning. The answer here is B for compelling, which is normally not a word you would associate with the word strong. You wouldn't usually think of those two words as being synonymous. Synonymous means that they are synonyms. Synonyms means that they have the same meaning. Just so that you know what I'm talking about. So you wouldn't normally think that those two words have the same meaning, but within this context, it's talking about a recent research collaboration. So we're talking about research, and we know we're talking about behavioral signs and crows and how smart they are with analogies. So we know that after this paragraph, we go into how researchers were researching that crows were smart and testing their intelligence through analogies and stuff like that. So that means this recent research collaboration that the passage opened up with was compelling enough to make them, to make researchers want to study crows. Also, guys, if you have a question about something, about how I explain something, you can make a note of it. Like say you still don't get this, for instance, number 2, make a note of it on a piece of paper or something. And you can either ask me at the end if we have time, we usually don't have time, or you can email it to me and I'll, I can email you back. So just a heads up there. Number 3 is, I forgot what number 3 is. What was number 3? 1 second. Number 3 is A. The 4th paragraph, the phrase sameness and differentness primarily serves to, anytime you see it referencing a paragraph or a line in particular, go to that line or paragraph. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 4th paragraph, starts at line 20. The answer choice is A. So we see in line 21, 2, 3, 23 right here is where the words sameness and differentness. Can you see my cursor? Let me just make sure. Okay. Yes, 21, 2, 3. Sameness and differentness. They're first talked about here. They're saying they're key to abstract ideas. Coins, cups can be the same or is different from one another. But I think the thing that really drives the point home why A is the answer for this is line 26, where it says, because sameness and differentness can be detected visually, perhaps that may provide an elegant way to study their apprehension by nonverbal animals. Then the next paragraph goes on to describe how they decided to do that very thing. So that coincides with answer choice A, which was saying that the phrase sameness and differentness primarily serves to A, introduce a concept that is central to the experiments described later. Once we get to number 6, I'll ask you guys for the answers. So, and I will also tell you the answers after the session. I meant to do that last week, but I forgot, sorry. But I always try to, separate the answers from the thing so you're not, don't accidentally see the answers, and that defeats the purpose of doing the exercise, of course. So the discussion of animals' ability to apply a learned skill. Okay, there we go. The discussion of animals' ability to apply a learned skill in various testing scenarios suggests that some animals, the answer here is B, pardon me, are capable of understanding the shared concept that underlines different tasks. So when it's talking about the discussion within the passage around animals' ability, intellectual ability, it hints at the fact that some animals are capable of understanding abstract concepts that help them apply a learned skill. So let me just find that here. So line 69 through 71, I think, is one of those places that describes that discussion, but there are other ones, as we'll see in the next problem. But this one says, not only could the crows correctly perform the task, but they did so spontaneously from the very first presentations without ever being trained to do so. This line 69 through 71, they come after, oops, sorry. They come after we read about the crows being taught analogies for certain things and stuff like that. So the crows were faced with a new task. Right here, it's starting the new task. So there are two tasks, basically. The first task we read about, and then the second task, the description for it starts at line 60 here. It says, then the critical test was given. Each card now pictured ... and so on and so forth. So that's the second task. So let's shimmy on down to line 69, 71 again. It says not only could the crows correctly perform this task, but they did so spontaneously from the very first presentations without ever being trained to do so. So that means that they applied that abstract skill they learned before to this new task that they did not need training on. So that is why B is correct, that they are capable of understanding the shared concept that underlines different tasks. So the next one, number 5, which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question? So the best evidence, this is answer C, lines 32 through 35. So let's look at them. So 32 says 31, 2. Starts at several insect species. Okay, so several species of birds and mammals learn this task and also transfer their learning to new stimuli, showing that they have learned an abstract concept which extends beyond the training items. That is the best way to answer the question above, or that came before, when we were saying the discussion of animals' ability to apply learned skill in various testing scenarios suggests that some animals, so right here, this is the discussion that is talking about animals' ability to apply learned skills in various testing scenarios. It says here that they transfer their learning to new stimuli, showing that they have learned an abstract concept, which extends beyond the training items. Extends beyond the training items means they can apply it to things that are outside whatever the researchers train them on. So so this is a very different, this prep course is, it's different from how you're actually gonna take the test because the test is on paper. As it stands, things, are always changing and stuff nowadays because of coronavirus. But it's helpful when you're reading, maybe to underline certain things. Maybe where you found an answer, perhaps. That could help you with these types of questions at times. It could help you also, as you're reading, to take note of certain things. It depends on you. Maybe underline certain things or highlight certain things. Well, not with the highlighter, with the pencil. but like putting a star and asterisk by certain things. Try it when you're practicing and see how it works for you. Everyone's different. Right. Yes. Thank you, DM. I know you've talked about like how the notes help you before. So I think it's good too. It's good too for you guys to share amongst each other what works for you. You know, you guys can you know, speak to each other and stuff. I think that's helpful because you might learn from each other. All right, now we're number 6. We didn't do this last week, so I'll ask you guys to put in the chat what your answer is for this. Please and thank you. Based on the author's initial explanation of the analogical matching task, a sample pair with a triangle and a square would most correctly be. Okay, seems pretty consistent. Next on my list is EP. I remember when people used to have EPs. I'm dating myself. Anyway. So, EP, can you please work it out with me? How did you get answer B?
I got answer B from, there's an echo. Okay, sorry. I got answer B from referring back to the passage. If you go to lines 40, I think to 42, then you'll see the answer. And that's how I solved it. They said that stated logically, A and A as B and B will be the same and same. But for C, D, and E, F, they'll be different and different. So in question 6, they're comparing a triangle and a square, which means it's different. So our answer could only mean that it will be different. So A and C will automatically be eliminated because it's very it's similar to the triangle and square. And D will be eliminated as well because it includes the square. So our only answer that we have left is B, a circle and a cross.
Awesome, perfect. I was gonna ask you why isn't B correct, but you already got ahead of me and answered it. Which was that, because you established how the answers have to be different. The analogy is that, as described in line 40 through 40, what is that, 43 or so, that same equals same and different equals different in terms of the items that are being compared. So here we have triangle and a square, which are 2 different things. Sorry, someone's asking me for access to this. Sorry, someone's asking for access to the Google Doc. I'll get them in a second. Yes, I was going to ask. As you said, A and C, you can automatically eliminate those because they're the same. Now, B and D, D is a square and a cross. Those are obviously 2 different shapes, but D can't be the same because as seen in line 1, 2, 3, it says C is to D as E is to F. So if C is to D as E is to F, that means that in the second pairing, so C and D is one pairing, E and F is one pairing. In the second pairing, you can't have something from the previous pairing. So since answer choice D has a square in it, a square is part of the previous pairing. So perfect answer, thank you. We have another point too, I think 65. The relation between one pair of items must be appreciated and then applied to a new pair of items to generate the correct answer. BB card in the case of AA or the EF card in the case of ED, for instance, if the middle card displayed a circle and a cross, then the correct choice would be the side card containing a square and a triangle rather than the same card containing two squares. So that's another way to look at it. And I think that's even kind of directly touching on some of the shapes mentioned in question 6. So thank you very much, DM, for mentioning that too. It's always good to look at things from different perspectives. So I invite you guys, if I don't call on you, if you have a different way to answer, you can definitely put it in the chat or like unmute yourself or something, because I think if you go into the test having multiple ways to answer things, you're going to be all the better for it. Okay, number 7. This is a little too big. Okay, there we go. It can be reasonably inferred that a key difference. Oh, everyone put your answers in the chat, please. While I read it, it can be reasonably inferred that a key difference between the two parts of the study done by Ed Wasserman and his colleagues is that the second part, ... Okay, we have some B's. We have, I was about to say a D. Oh yes, we have D. We have some B's. We have an A. All right. I think we have about everyone. 1, 2, 3, 4. Did everyone answer? Even if you're not sure, put the answer in, whatever you think is the best choice. Okay, so let's see who's next on my list. CW. Your next person I have written down. Can you please unmute yourself and tell me how you got B?
So I was looking back at lines 47 through but yeah, just starting from line 47.
Okay, line 47. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but I really didn't come to an answer yet, but I was just looking back in the passage to really see Cause I seen Ed Wasserman,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah.
Okay, right. So maybe you didn't have a chance to answer it, because I know you were this is your first time. So I usually give more time to read and answer the passages, but since I kind of covered this, I gave less time. But that's cool too, because say you might be running out of time on the SAT and you need to make an answer. So this could be good practice for that. Okay, so what are we, so with this question, CW, what are we, just looking at the question, not the answer choices and not the passage. What is this question asking you? What is the question asking you? Just in your own words.
I guess the difference between the parts done by Ed Wasserman.
Mm-hmm. The two parts of the study. Pardon me. Mm-hmm. So what does that tell you? Whatever, it's not a trick question, it's whatever comes to your mind.
I guess we're looking for the difference.
Mm-hmm. Between
the two parts to the study.
right. So that tells us that there are going to be, so what that tells us is that within this passage, there's a study, pardon me, and there are two different distinct parts to it. So then what we can do is we can kind of skim, and I apologize, I didn't tell you this before. Usually I give like tips and tricks on what to do with the reading passage. I'll do that for the second one that we do today. But I also am sometimes self-conscious of being redundant, so I didn't mention it this time. So let's say we skim and we try to find, we know there are two parts of the study. So we need to find, if we're going to find the difference in them, we have to find the first part, kind of know what that's about a little bit, and then see what the second part is about. And then we, compare and contrast them basically. So if you kind of run out of time, what you did was you saw Ed Wasserman and you went there because he's mentioned in the question, and you went to line, what is that, 47, and you found his name.
Yes, ma'am.
So that was a good way, that's a good way to start. Usually. But so one second. Trying to see if there's another place where it mentions his name. Not really. Except, sorry, a little past. So that, usually I would say that there's a good strategy you used if you don't have the answers to look at where part of the question is mentioned in the passage, and you went straight to Ed Wasserman in the passage, which is around line 47. The thing is, though, that's not quite where the study is starting to be described. And the kind of tricky thing here is that Ed Wasserman is actually mentioned like in the title. So if you see, this passage is excerpted from Lara Castro and Ed Wasserman, Crows Understand Analogies. So although his name is like within the passage, his name is first mentioned line 47 or so. The whole thing is actually talking about the study he and his colleagues did. So I applaud your efforts. They don't work for this, but usually that's a good place to start if you're running low on time, I will say. So let's kind of skim and see if we can find like, so we know we're looking for two parts of a study. So that means we have two distinct. Distinct means that we have two parts of the study that are different from each other in a noticeable way. So we have to find out what the two parts are and how they're different from each other. So a study is another word for experiment, you know. So we can kind of skim, we see here talking about animals to study, Aesop's, Crow in the Picture, such tales are charming. I'm just kind of skimming, I guess skimming with you in real time in a way. Recent scientific research sought to corroborate this fable. Okay, we're getting closer. It's talking about research. Still talking about a fable though. What happens when crows are given problems that require more abstract thinking? Talking about cups. To do so, we present visual stimuli on a touchscreen monitor. Okay, we're getting close. And that was part of the answer choice B that you had chosen. And it does say, in fact, the first, answer choice B says the first experiment was viewed on a monitor. Line 29 said, to do so, we prevent visual stimuli on a touchscreen monitor. Yeah, that's true. Scientific method, that's a good point. Yes, this was definitely a scientific, one of the scientific passages. That's true. I'll include something at the end for that. Thank you, DM. So sorry, I was just reading a chat message. So the elimination method. Yeah, so CW, I think it is important when you're answering these questions, and this goes for all of the SAT, honestly. But I guess it might be the most used. No, it goes for all of the SAT. Try your best to eliminate as many things. You didn't catch that on line 29, it was between B and D. B and D. So try to eliminate things, as many things as you can, because there's only one correct answer. So when you go in to answer these questions, know that there's only one correct answer. So you know that from the jump. So when you have two answers, say you have, it's between B and D for you, you know that one of them is wrong and one of them is correct. Sometimes if they look very similarly to each other, the attitude or the mindset you have to have going in is, okay, how can I eliminate one of these? Someone else mentioned the process of elimination, which is very important and crucial to the SAT, honestly. I would say especially for the reading portion or section, but it's helpful for different sections as well. Pardon me, sorry. Okay, so where were we? So we had line 29. It said on a touchscreen monitor. So we reward animals with food for contacting one button when sets contain identical items, and we reward animals for contacting a second button when sets contain non-identical items. Several species of birds and mammals learn this task and also transfer their learning to new stimuli, showing that they have learned an abstract concept which extends beyond the training items. Devising a task to study analogical thinking in animals is the next step. Here, the gist of analogy can be captured by arranging. This can be confusing to read when you're looking for an answer. But even when you're confused, because it's like, it starts talking about A and B, and you know, it's like, what is this math? You know, at the bottom here, keep reading on, just keep skimming it until you get to what you're looking for. So this goes on speaking. It's describing an experiment. Then it says the next paragraph, now we have found that crows too can exhibit analogical thinking. Ed Wasserman, that's where you had made a point. So I'm just gonna skim it. Crows are presented with a tray, 3 cups, la la la. Then it said, then the critical test was given. Each card now pictured a pair of items. And it goes on to describe the new experiment, or, part 2 or whatever. So line 60, and that is this word. You have to remember where everyone is. This is one of those words that is important to pay attention to. Then, however, but those words are kind of critical. Sometimes they can be critical changing points in a passage. So let me just see. CW, could you please read? Okay, so let's set it up for you. We just kind of skimmed and saw that they did a study with crows. Maybe we don't fully understand, but it had something to do with like cups. They tested analogical thinking. It says here in line 36. Talking about analogical relation of sameness can be used to solve the task. Then it's talking about, it's describing more, of the study where the other 2 side cups were also covered by cards. So that's describing the study. So lines 60 through 64 start with, then the critical test was given. So CW, what does that sentence tell you? Then the critical test was given.
I guess to see or test whatever the object was to see how it worked or something.
Yeah. Well, what is it? Let's say you don't know much about the experiment, but you just read that sentence. Then the critical test was given. That's kind of telling you some backstory, and it's also kind of telling you what's going to happen next. So let's say you don't really know the details of the experiment, but you read that sentence. What is it telling you about what happened before and about what's going to happen? You don't even need to understand the experiment at all.
To check on it, or
Okay, what is, let's see, think of it in a different way. So if you had, we know we had, okay, so when you use the word then, let's say I say, I went to the store, then I went home. If I say then I went home, what's the past of those 2 sentences that I gave you? I went to the store, then I went home. What happened before I got to the word then?
you was at the store?
Right. So the word then, when it's used in this way, then comma, so I'm gonna reread this sentence, then the critical test was given. So that then, that means that something happened before. What happened before? Within the context of this passage, what happened before that word then? You can say it very vaguely, you don't have to give specifics. Well, we could, the answer, I'm gonna give you another hint. The answer is in the sentence about what happened before. Because we have, it says the critical test was given. I'm gonna ask you another question. Sorry, and I appreciate you working this out with me because, excuse me, I feel like that's when the most learning happens, is when you're like, you know, go through step by step. So what does the word critical mean to you?
Like serious,
Yeah.
or maybe endangerment or endanger or something.
Yeah, that's right, basically. So if it says, let's replace it with the synonym you gave me. I'm gonna read it, but I'm gonna replace the word critical with the word that you gave me, serious. Then the serious test was given. So again, thinking of the example sentence I gave you, how we use the word then. I went to the store, then I went home. So it says then the serious test was given. So what does that, so we have a serious test being given. So what does that tell you about what came before this sentence?
What I guess before it wasn't that good, maybe.
What wasn't that good?
The
You're getting there. You don't have to just say whatever comes to your mind.
I guess the sentence before it says crows quickly learn to choose the matching card and to do so more quickly from the one test and next. So maybe something to do with the crows, maybe.
Yeah, the whole passage is about crows. I mean, when I say that what came before, you can look directly at what came before, but I'm speaking more so what came before in the whole passage. Say we're looking at line 60, right? So when I say what came before, I kind of mean more so lines 1 through 59 of the whole passage.
Okay.
So I'll help you out. I think you're on the right track, but also you might not be used to the type of questions I ask. So you might not be used to, like, you know, what I'm asking you. So if we have the wording, then the critical test was given, we know that something came before the critical test was given, right?
Yes.
Looking at this problem, because if I say, I went to the grocery store, next sentence, then, comma, I went home, we know that before I went home, I went to the grocery store, right? So what is critical? Critical here is an adjective. That means it's describing a noun or pronoun. So critical, what noun is this word modifying? Or what word is this word critical? What is it describing?
The test.
The test, right. So you were saying, then the serious test was given. I'm just using your word. So if the serious test was given then that implies that a less serious test was given before, right?
Yes.
You say yes. Do you understand it, or are you just agreeing with me?
No. Yeah, I know. Because
Please,
I guess
please be honest.
I do.
Okay, so can you describe what I'm saying in your own words? Or even my words? You don't have to use exactly all your own words, but can you kind of
So,
re-describe it? Mhm.
so there was probably a non-serious test or before they took this critical test.
Mhm.
And they didn't really look into much of the stuff during the not so critical test before they did this critical test.
Okay, so which test? So we have a not so critical test and a critical test. So that's two different tests we have, right?
What did you say?
I said we have I'm just going off of what you just said, piggybacking off of what you just said. We have a critical test and a not so critical test. So that's two different tests we have, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if you have a non-critical test and a critical test, which one sounds harder?
Most likely the critical test.
Yeah. So looking back at the answer choices, based just on that, what we learned from that sentence, what would your answer be? You could take a second to reread the answer choices.
So D.
D?
Yes.
I think that's closer. That's definitely closer. I'm gonna reread the question because we've been on I've been describing it for a minute, so just to refresh. It can be reasonably inferred that a key difference between the two parts of the study done by Ed Wasserman and his colleagues is that the second part, so we're looking at specifically the second part.
Okay.
So if we say, is that the second part, I'm going to read the answer choice you gave. And his colleagues, is that the second part tested learned abilities while the second experiment tested natural abilities. That kind of doesn't make sense when you read it together, because the question set up, it says it's asking about the second part. And then D asks about hold on, what am I trying to say? The question stem, it says, is that the second part? That's from the question. And then D says tested learned abilities while the second experiment tested natural abilities. So the question is setting it up so you are just basically describing the second part first. But answer choice D says while the second experiment tested natural abilities. While is another one of those important words to pay attention to because it's hinting at a shift or a change in what was previously stated. So do you see why that kind of doesn't work, because you have the second part being spoken about twice, so it doesn't really talk about the difference.
Yes.
But remember we said that if there's a critical test and a non-critical test, that the critical test is probably harder, right?
Yeah.
Right. So try one more time what do you think is saying that the second part or the critical test was harder?
B.
B, that's the first one you answered. The answer choice is A, required a more complex task. So that is the correct answer because, well, as I was saying, the What was I saying? I'm sorry, I had a brain fart. So this one, and thank you for answering, by the way. This one, B, so we always want to try to eliminate answer choices so we are left with the one correct one. If we don't, that is if we don't know right off the bat what the answer choice is. Sometimes we read it and we know automatically what it is. So right here we said, or they said, touchscreen monitor. Oops, that was cricket, sorry. Okay, so touchscreen monitor. B says, while the first experiment was used on a monitor. Okay, cool. So that's touchscreen monitor, that is technically correct. So now, it's also saying that, it's also saying that the second part was viewed with direct observation. Oh no, I'm sorry. This says that the, sorry, I misread that. We present visual stimuli on a touchscreen monitor. So that means that the animals are looking at a touchscreen monitor, not the people. My mistake. So B is wrong because actually, I'm not even quite sure why. I know that the thing is not, it's not viewed directly through direct observation. But now I'm sometimes, you know, you start to overthink things. No, that is referring to the animals. They viewed the first one on a monitor, and then the second one, they used cards. So that was direct observation, but it's not like a key difference. So that one's tricky. I can see why you would choose B. Because the animals at first did, as per line 29, they presented the visual stimuli on a touchscreen monitor, and then they did the cups or whatever. I read this last week, so I forgot some of the details, but they did the cups for the second part or whatever. Each card, sorry, cards now pictured a pair of 2 items. So that is direct observation. Direct observation meaning it's not on a monitor, it's not on a screen, but it's not a key difference. So this one is a little tricky because that is like technically true. This one, B. But the answer is A, required a more complex task. And the distinguishing thing here is that line we were focusing on, line 60. Then the critical test was given. As CW have pointed out, critical is another word for serious or more important. That line is distinguishing between the first test or study and the second one. It's saying that the second one was more important or more serious. So, and if you go on to read it, read the description of the new, I'll read your chat message in 1 second. If you go on to read the description of the new test, it is kind of more complex. Okay, let me read this chat message. I think what it meant is which difference had affected the result of the study. It didn't matter whether it was viewed on a monitor or done through direct observation. Yeah, that's a good point. So who is this? SG is talking about how the difference that affected the results of the studies, and that it didn't really matter that one was viewed directly and one was viewed on a monitor. That's a good way to phrase it. Thank you for that. So yeah, sometimes the wording is very exact. The key word here is key, unintended. So it's saying what is the main difference? What is the most important difference between the two parts of the study? So yes, the answer is A. But B is right, but it's not an important part of the study. That's the thing. Isn't that annoying? Yeah, it is. You guys will get the hang of it though. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, let me erase this. Spent a lot of time on that one, but I like to get into things where we're kind of looking at the details and breakdown and stuff. Obviously, you won't have that much time to go over things during the test, but that's why you're here now, so you can go over them now and be ready for the test. Number 8 is very much, we kind of went over it already. It's answer choice C. Line 60 through, line 60 through 64. Although it just popped. And that is basically saying, again, line 60 starts with, then the critical test was given, and that is signifying that the test that is given, about to be given then, is more serious or important, or insert whatever word you want to use, than the one that came before. So that's your first clue. That's your first clue of the answer to number 7. But number 8 here, we're basically giving the evidence for why number 7 was correct. So the answer choice is C, lines 60 through 64. Alrighty. Number 9, put your answers in the chat. We won't spend as much time on this. Okay, and it asks the average results for sessions 1 through 8 as shown in the chart reveal that ... Okay, so we're looking at the chart. It's good to get familiar with charts because the SAT likes to ask about charts, not just in math, in reading and writing and language as well. At times, so get very comfortable with analyzing charts. So next person on the list is ML. ML, please tell us how you got A, if you don't mind.
I got A because I looked at the percentage of each crowd, like crowd 1 and crowd 2, and I start to see if there was like a change, like a big change in between the numbers in each, like on the side of the size, shape, and color.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just like I just how do I say it? Like I just choose the like the object dimension or like the size or
Dimension, that's a good way to describe it.
okay, like the dimension then that has like the most like that has a very high percentage.
Mm-hmm.
So for the crown number 1, I choose size because it mainly has like in between 70% and 80% in comparison of the other two, like shape and color. It has like a very high percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And for crowd 2, I choose color because it has the most high percentage too.
Mm-hmm.
And
All right,
that's
perfect. Yeah, A is correct. Thank you very much. So as I said, getting comfortable with looking at the graph, because when you first look at it without orienting yourself with it, it's like it looks kind of confusing. It has all these different like organized tabs, the bird, object dimension, crow 1, crow 2, size, shape, color, but you have to look at it and realize that, ooh, I have something in my eye. Sorry. What it's doing is breaking down, it's saying that you have 2 crows. So first of all, always look at when you're looking at graphs, look at the title of the graph because that's going to tell you what it's about. And it's going to orient you and get you, well, basically give you context and orient you on what data the graph is showing. So right here we have percentage of crows correct responses in 8 sessions of identical matching tasks. Okay, cool. So we're getting correct responses, tasks. That's what we know before we start looking at the data. So we have the bird, crow 1, crow 2. Okay, so there are 2 crows. So we've established. Next, we look at object dimension, size, shape, color, size, shape, color. Okay, so we're judging each crow on how they can identify size, shape, and color. And then we just look at the numbers from there. So crow 1 was generally more successful at matching size because size here is here. When we look at size, the numbers are higher for crow 1 compared to size when we look at size for crow 2. And then when we look at shape for crow 1 and look at shape for crow 2 has higher numbers with shape. Then we look at color for crow 1 and color for crow 2, and generally crow 2 is better at matching color, even though crow 1 does have a 91.7 at the bottom there, but above it is a 63.9. So crow 1's color numbers are all over the place. Crow 2's color numbers are more consistent and higher. So A is correct. Thank you, ML, for the breakdown. 10, please put your answers in the chat if you have them. Excuse me. I'll read the question. Which statement can be reasonably inferred from the information in the passage and the chart? Oh, let me scroll down a little bit so you can see everything. There we go. So when you see words like inferred, that usually means that something is implied. It's the passage writer is leading you to a conclusion, but they're not necessarily saying it outright, but they're leading you to a conclusion still. AH, you're actually next on my list. Did you get an answer for this, or did I miss it? AH. Do you have an answer? You were next on my list of people. Just help me out. No worries. It's all good. Thanks for responding though. So let's see who else answered. Okay, DM, can you work out with me how you got, wait, let me go back to the chat, how you got B, please?
Yeah. Oh, well, so I got B because I was just reading it. And so once I went to like one of the lines, I forget where. Wait 1 second. It was like where, it's just when I read the word inconsistent during the observation that kind of helped me decide that that was the answer.
Okay, it's becoming intuitive for you. Impressive. Do you remember where that line is?
No, actually the line was within the answer choice, inconsistent during observation. So as you can see from the graph, from the table, it was pretty inconsistent. It was different all throughout.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes, that is exactly correct. B is the correct choice. And as DM said, oops. As DM said, hold on 1 second. My computer's dragging a little bit, sorry. As DM said, within the answer choice, it says, okay, so which statement can be reasonably inferred from the information in the passage in the chart? Remember I said when we're talking about inferred or reasonably inferred, that usually points to something that is not directly stated, but that you're being led to making a conclusion on. So answer choice B, which is the correct answer, says that researchers can see evidence of learning even when an animal's performance on a task is inconsistent during observation. And we can see that through these sessions, and you have to look through by column. When you look by column, which say Crow 1, looking at how they match size, shape, color, and the same for Crow 2, we see that there are inconsistencies in the data. But we know that they still learned because it said in different parts of the passage that that they had still learned the new task without being trained to do so. Lines 69 through 71 are a good example. Trying to look at other ones. But yes, the main evidence for that question is looking at the graph and seeing our chart and seeing that the results are different, the numbers are different. Number 11, I'll just tell you what the answer is. The answer is C. So the information from the chart best supports the author's claim that the crows, C, quickly learn to complete the matching task. So we see that looking at the chart showing the numbers here are averages for each session, depending on the object dimension. So this chart means for size, for crow 1, for matching size, during session 1, the average was 77.8 in terms of correct responses that crow 1 got. So we see as the sessions go on from session 1 through to session 8, there's an increase. So in general, sometimes the numbers go down, but sometimes they go up as well. So excuse me, that is correct answer there is C. Quickly learn to complete the matching task. We're not going to do the second reading because that took a while. We're going to do a little math. I invite you to do the second reading. Well, we'll see. We're going to go over time as usual, but we did start late, so I always like to make sure I give people time. So we're going to go past 4:30. Now, I'm going to sorry, let me share my screen. Sorry about that. Forgot I stopped sharing my screen. Okay. This is the one labeled SAT 5. Pardon me. So, go to the Dropbox link. Let me know if you can't access it. Originally, I was going to have you do 1 through 10. But what we're going to do instead, okay, so here's the thing. You can do 1 through 10. Try to do 1 through 10, but if you don't have enough time for the time that I give you to do it, what I want you to do is, let me get out the ones we were going to go over. 1 second. You can't do 1 through 10. Do numbers 3, 8, and 10. That's what we're going to go over specifically. But if you have it like a bit of a challenge, do 1 through 10. Again, if you don't have time, 3, 8, and 10. I'll make a note of it. So I'm going to give you guys like 5 minutes. Do as much as you can. If you can't finish it, it's okay. We'll finish it next week. Let me know if you can't answer it or can't access it, sorry. All right, so.
You do this on a piece of paper?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you able to see it on your computer?
I can see it, yeah.
Okay, because I'm gonna step away from the computer as the time is going. So I might not, if you can't see it, I'm not gonna scroll down, is basically what I'm saying. So let me go ahead and put the note.
Oh, I got my own. I see it, but I was just asking, do I do it on a piece of paper?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for asking. Yeah, do it on your own separate piece of paper. We'll come back at about 4:30. So let me make sure everyone can see this. I guess this thing here is fine. Okay, come back at 4:30. Sorry, I forgot to mention you can use a calculator on this if you're trying to stay within the rules and everything. I'm preparing to come back, but I just have to switch to a different computer for the math portion. So if you want to use the last minute or so to finish up, please feel free. And I'll be with you guys shortly. I'm going to switch to this different computer. Okay, so before we even get into that, I'm going to show you guys a little something on parallelograms. So parallelograms, which is what number 3 is dealing with. Opposite sides are congruent. Congruent meaning they're equal to each other. Opposite angles are congruent. So basically the thing for parallelograms, the thing opposite it is going to be the same. The same measurement or the same quantity, have the same quantity value. What do I mean by that? The line opposite one line is going to have the same value. So lines opposite each other are going to have the same value. I feel like I'm being redundant at this point. Okay, so who would like to help me work out number 3?
I can.
Okay, who said that? Miriam?
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. I'm gonna try to keep up. Hold on one second, let me just adjust something. I don't like to use the second computer as much, but I have to. Sorry, okay, so. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so I got A for this. So it gives it gives some of the sides. So okay, so BD would be 14, BF is 6, and AF is 2. And so BF is already of side of the triangle that we're trying to find the area of. So that would be 6. And then to find the longer side, I subtracted 2 from 14.
Why did you subtract 2 from 14?
Because that part is like overlapping. So
okay, let's see. So in the question it says that BD, that means this right here, from B to D, the measurement or the numerical value is 14. It gives us these different numerical values. That's how Miriam gave us these numbers. So we're trying to find the area of a rectangle BCEF. So we're just looking, oh, you can't see my cursor. Okay. We're just looking at B, that doesn't let me write on there. Sorry. We're just looking at B, C, E, and F. So we're just looking at this rectangle. So as you were saying, you said that the line BC of that rectangle is contained within the B to D, right?
Yeah.
And so why did you subtract 2 though?
Oh, sorry, 1 second.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So it says AF is 2, and that's equal to CD.
So AF equals 2. That's equal to CD because this is a parallelogram. So lines are congruent, sides are congruent. So we see that AF here, there's another triangle within that, and it's flipped on the opposite side. So the line AF would correspond to CD. Okay, sorry, go ahead. So we're going to subtract 2.
And CD is not a part of BC, so you want to get rid of that. So you would subtract it and you get 12. And so they already give BF, which is 6, and the area of a rectangle is base times height, or sorry, length times width. So you would multiply 12 times 6 and you get 72.
Yep, that's correct. Thank you very much. That was perfect. So let's see here. In conclusion, we're looking at this triangle here. This is very sloppy, but I can't draw on it for some reason with my pen. So we see that BD, as it says here, BD equals 14. Well, what is contained within BD? BD has BC, so the line from B to C, that line, and it also has C to D. So BC plus CD equals 14, and that's outlined here. But now, to get just BC, we know we have to subtract CD. But we know that because this is a parallelogram, we know that AF and CD are going to equal each other. So BD equals BC plus CD. So since we're only looking at the rectangle in red, we want to just get this, BC. So that means we have to subtract CD from BD. Will this let me? No, it won't let me write that. And then we know that CD equals 2 because AF equals 2. So we subtract 2 from 14 to get BC. BC is, I guess you could call it the width. And then BF, as Miriam already said, BF is 6, it's already stated. So we know we multiply 12 by 6 to get the area because it says it right here. Oops. Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me erase this. Oh, that one erased. Oh, God. A equals L times W, length times width. So, excellent job, Miriam. Thank you very much for that. Then I said number 8, right? Number 8 was a little crazy. Number 8 is looking good and crazy. Oh, sorry, I just wanted to check. Okay. I think I've gone through my list more or less, and I don't have it in front of me. Who would like to help with number 8?
I could do it.
Okay, who said that?
DM.
DM, awesome, thank you. I thought that was you, but I wasn't sure if I recognized your voice. Okay, because I'm not looking at the chat screen right now. Okay.
Yeah, it was a little it was a little scary, and like at first I didn't get it, but then I got it.
Yeah, I think with this, well, I'm gonna see how you figured it out because everyone's different. But I feel like I wanted to even do it maybe a different way, or I can see how people would want to do it a certain different way. I want to get a better line. Give me 1 second. I don't like how thick these lines are. Okay. All right, cool. So if x to the 2/3 power equal y, what does x to the 4th equal in terms of y? So DM, first tell me, what is this like? Well, I guess, how did you set this problem up? Like, how did you know what it was asking you?
So I knew that it was like proportions. So at first I did x to the 2/3 over y equals x to the 4th over y. But then from there I was like, I don't think I should do it this way.
You did it what way? I'm sorry. I had it on eraser. I was gonna write it. Say that one more time.
Yeah, I did x to the 2/3 over y equals x to the 4th over y.
So setting it up like a classic like proportion.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Not over y. It was basically like a variable. For the x to the 4th over a variable.
Oh, another variable to
Yeah.
substitute for the y power, the y value you don't know yet.
Yeah.
I see.
So then from there, I knew that I tried to do the proportions, but then I was getting confused. So I just thought like doing 4 divided by 2 over 3, because that would make more sense. Well, it's still proportion, sort of. And then from there, I got the answer as 6, and then I got E.
That's right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Awesome. So this looks really intimidating. But sometimes those really intimidating questions are actually simple once you realize what they're asking and what type of problem it is. They make them intimidating. Awesome. Thank you. I'll include the answers. They make them intimidating on purpose because it's hard to stuff. But you'll start to see, I've said this before, but for the new people, and just to reiterate, the more practice you did, just as DM said, it's easy with this to get caught up with like, oh my God, it's an exponent and it's a fraction, or a something's being divided in the exponents. It looks crazy. So it's like kind of like you feel like you should do something with the exponent rules and stuff like that. But it actually is a kind of boils down to being a classic proportion problem. What are proportions? For those who I have, not come before, we've gone over this before, but again, it's pertinent for this problem. The factors of the exponent. It's actually not an exponent problem. It's a proportion problem.
No, I meant like, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. What did you say?
I meant like, if you know that it's going to be x to the 4th, you know that 6 times 2 is 12. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So you know the difference between these two is 6. You could have just done it like that instead of.
Oh, say it again. I didn't hear you. Hold on. Let me erase it. Oh. Okay, say that again.
It's similar to what DM did, but you just think about it like if x is 4 and you have here x equals 2/3, you do that 6 times 2 is 12. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So the difference between x 2/3 and to the 4th is 6. And that would lead you to E.
So 6 times 2 is 12. And what else did you say? I'm just trying to write down what you said.
12 divided by 3 is 4.
Yeah, if you look at the, I think, yeah. Are you saying you could get that without knowing what the answer is? Are you saying to explain that knowing what the answer is? You know what I mean?
Wait, sorry, I don't understand what you're asking.
So is that how you got the answer?
Yeah, I just looked at the exponent, like the proportion between the x to the 2/3 and x to the 4th. But it's similar to what Dion did.
No, yeah, it is. But no, I was just saying if you got it before, I guess what I'm asking is, I don't even mean to erase that. Well, I guess what I'm asking is, would you want to do it, brain fart, sorry. Would you go in trying to solve the problem like that before knowing the question, or would you, but you said you solved it like that. Yes, you could do it that way as well, I think. But it's a proportion problem. It's not really necessarily even a, as DM and SG said, it's a proportion problem. What that means is that you're really just trying to see, so basically for every y, x, you have an x 2 to the 3rd power. That's what this means. If x 2 to the 3rd equals y, what does x to the 4th mean? So you set up a proportion like that, like say, because proportions and fractions are the same things. It's like, it just means like for every something, you get something else. So, oh, I have it on the eraser, sorry. So for every 2/3, for every x to the 2 over 3, you get 1 y, or y to the 1st, basically. So if you have 4, and then that basically is what DM had initially said, but you could look at it differently. You did it differently. Okay. So if you're dividing by a fraction, you can multiply by the reciprocal, which I think is what, who was it? SG was saying as well. So what this means is that this is the new value we have for x to the 4th, and this is the old value for x we have. And we know for every one of these, we have 1 y. So if we have, for the new x value, we're going to have a value of 6 for the exponent for y. I'm going to come back. So AH used the exponent rule. I'm going to come back to you in a second. We're going to go to number 10. So I like all the different ways you guys have figured it out. So that shows that there are different ways to get to the same problem, or get to the same answer, sorry, for the same problem. All right, number 10, who wants to speak on it?
I can do it.
Okay, go ahead.
So I just substituted the coordinate point into the equation. So 4 equals 3 times 1 plus b. And then you would just,
Sorry.
Okay.
Let me just rewrite that 1 second. So we're rewriting with the equation. All right.
and you do 4 minus, you subtract 3 on both sides to solve for b, and you get 1.
Yeah, fairly straightforward. I know we're all at different levels, but just so you know, if you see a point, coordinates, the first is always x, the second is y, and we're working with a slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So yes, the answer is b equals 1. All right, I'm gonna go, we can go back to different answers if you guys like. We're going to close out this recording. Let me stop sharing my screen. Okay. So, Isaac, could you please close us out? But before that, guys, hang back for like a minute or two. I just want to ask you questions about the last session. No, it shouldn't take too long. Isaac's going to close out the recording and stop recording, but we can still stay here. Yes. All right, Isaac, go ahead, please.
Hi guys, this is the end of our 5th session. We have one more session after this, so keep up the good work.